Welcome to a single malt review. Adelphi, it's one of our favourite names in independently bottled Scotch whisky, but sometimes they go beyond just bottling select casks and do something a little bit different.
Yes, indeed. They've had a bit of a fiddle around with them this time. This is, as far as I know, Adelphi's first vatted malt, or blended malt. So, what they're promising here is a combination of casks that they've managed to source from predominantly the Highlands, but also some Islay and Island whisky in here, and put it all together by some magical recipe and create something altogether a little bit different. And that's what we're going to have a look at today.
Yeah, it's Glenborrodale. Any significance behind that name?
Well, that's named after their the lovely sort of western Scottish area where they have their home base, and now their distillery on the Ardnamurchan Peninsula, which will be sort of just getting into its stride now. Their malt must be about maybe a year and a half old, so we'll have to wait a little bit longer for some Adelphi whisky by Adelphi, but in the meantime they're bringing us lovely things like this in addition to their single cask bottlings. So we will have a wee look here, and ooh, it does smell promising. Now, before we get too far along, I think half the fun of this bottle is in the tasting notes. These are really, and we've read some pretty kooky tasting notes. These, you have to say, are something very special. I'm going to give Dave the honour of these ones, since he realised just what a gem we had here.
Now, apparently what we're going to taste is sooty coal fires. You'll taste actual fire. With monkey nut brittle. Now, I've eaten me some peanut brittle. I've eaten various things. I've never eaten me some nunky nuts. Hopefully that's not too literal. Maybe that's something we're just not familiar with. Hopefully there's some confection in the UK which is called monkey nut brittle and is neither testicular nor apish. We can hope. Chocolate ice cream. Okay, I'm on board with that. And this last one, this is just weird. A distant space hopper. Now, we live in the Antipodes. A space hopper for us is a large inflated rubber ball with handles that a child might bounce around on for fun. It's a relic of the 80s and 90s, as far as I recall. But, yeah, it's very much a recreational vehicle of sorts. But we're going to apparently taste one that is distant. So it's like, well, it's over there. It's a kid's toy.
I'm envisioning sort of slightly greasy garages and a little bit of rubber. So something coming from the sherry casks.
I'm going to assume and very much hope that a space hopper is something else. Maybe some kind of.
I'm going to say it's going to be some sort of Scottish confectionery on which this whisky seems to be entirely comprised. It's like the Scottish confectionery code written on here, like something out of the war. I think this makes sense to probably quite a few people, but they all were fans of the 5p mixture growing up in the depths of Scotland, which alas we were not. So we'll just have to do it for ourselves and see what happens. So we should also mention unchanneled, filtered, uncoloured. So good stuff there.
And at 46%. Now, vatted malt. You explained this to me before. If I understand right, it's when you take a bunch of different single malts, combine them, then put them back into a cask together for a bit of further maturation.
You don't have to put them back into the cask. I think Adelphi has here. That's where that's the truest name of vatted malts. You are literally vatting them together before they go in the bottle. But no, some are simply blended together and immediately bottled. So you don't really know which one you're coming into. They're very, very rare. They used to be common, but now they're extremely, extremely scarce. The most mainstream is probably the semi-famous, at least, and now returned, thankfully, because I think it's actually rather good, Johnnie Walker Green Label. I think that's the last great, or at least the last mass-manufactured vatted malt, or blended malt, around, really, now that famous grouse has kind of gone away with their vatted mainstays, but never mind, they may come back. So, we should get into this one. Ooh, and it is immediately a peated whisky. It's quite a few things, but the most dominant is peat.
I'm getting the peat, but I was struck more by the intense caramel notes.
There's a lot of a slightly burned, slightly stuck to the bottom of the pan toffee in there. And it's pretty inviting. Very, very rich, very Moorish nose altogether. It makes you really want to smell it a second time, or maybe even drink it.
According to those notes on the label, it's going to taste of a sooty coal fire, but I'm certainly smelling coal smoke.
There is a slight coaly quality. If you're familiar with burning coal, it does have a little touch of the reefdens in here, as you'd say, down in this part of the world where there is not a lot of coal burned. But it achieves a really nice balance of that quite almost bitter peat. It's quite a striking peat, which I'm told is from peated Bunnahabhain, which you see less and less these days, a good peaty Bunnahabhain. So there's a good fair whack of that gone in addition to the Highland Park, which I'm not sure is peated or not. If anybody knows, they'll be fascinated to know. If you could let me know in the comments. But coming through from the other end is this tremendous sort of caramel, toffee. I guess there's a little bit of chocolatiness. I'm not sure about chocolate ice cream myself, but there's certainly cocoa there, if not chocolate ice cream specifically.
Yeah, it's a good balance. The peat is strong, but it doesn't sort of overpower everything else. It's good, kind of almost like a menthol burn up the back of the nose after sipping this one.
Initially, it smells like a very peated whiskey, and when you first taste it, it tastes like quite a peated whiskey. And this is almost the downfall of the whiskey, in that it is so moorish and so easy to drink, because the more you have, the more you realise just how finely tuned that peat is to make these very, very dripping sweet caramel flavours not build up, but rather become refreshing. It takes that syrupy edge off the whiskey and it freshens it up, so it's both deeply, deeply rich, but quite refreshing at the same time. And that's a lethal combination for a whiskey that you're trying to, say, hold on to for any length of time.
I'm getting a real mix of sweet, salty, and nutty out of this, like salted cashews, some, say, peanut brittle, some salted caramel. A lot of things we're describing, or at least we think we're describing, in those curious tasting notes.
Certainly look for the honeyed nuts. Cashews, I think, definitely. Almonds, as always, in a great many whiskies. But there's a little peanut there, and peanut's quite unusual for whiskey. You don't usually get the peanut. It's normally the more mellow nuts there. I will try it with a wee bit of water. It's very, very nice at 46. I think that's a very good strength for it, but doesn't mean it can't take a little bit.
The water for me has highlighted those nutty notes. I'm now getting intense hits of sort of caramel roasted peanuts and almonds, cashews. Some good old honey roasted nuts. It's very pleasant. The peat has faded almost into the background, but it's there in a kind of briny, slightly sooty smokiness. Just an impression, though, not a strong dominant character anymore.
No, with that water, there's almost a little juiciness coming out now, but I couldn't tell you from what fruit necessarily. It's more of what they would say in Scotland, a macerated fruit, more of a sort of a couple of days old fruit salad kind of a thing.
Yeah, a bit of like a fruit nectar or a concentrated juice.
Yeah, or a cooked fruit. If you've stewed up some stone fruit, you'd get that macerated quality to it, but very, very good.
Yeah, I'm partial in wintertime to a poached spiced quince, and I'm getting some impressions of that.
It has, as you might expect from whiskey, built from potentially 6, or maybe more, I'm not sure, different distilleries, aged in completely different ways. We've got bourbon, we've got sherry, we've got all kinds of things in here. It has a lot of flavours, so it's difficult to really hold them down all at once. But that's not really what blended malts are about. It's not what blended whiskey is about at all. It's about taking all these flavours and making them work together to create something completely new, rather than create a flavour or even a mixture of flavours, to create an experience that the whole lot brings as they come together. People use the old, sadly rather tired now, but it's still very relevant, the old orchestra analogy, where single malts are sort of individual pieces. One might be the violin, one might be the man on the tambourine, but blends are quite orchestral in their assemblage. So that's what we're tasting here, and I think it works extremely well.
Yeah, the addition of the peat, it seems like such a contrast to the rest of our sweet flavours, but without the peat, this would just be an overly syrupy, overly desserty confection, and possibly a little bit boring or a bit limited.
Every part of this whiskey is deliberate.
Yeah, the peat really contributes. It kind of
nothing is accidental here. So, scores. This will be a bit of a weird score, because it's not only a blended score, but it's a blended malt score, and I'm not even sure we've done a blended malt before. I have to look back through the archives, so this may mean absolutely nothing, but I think this is tremendously strong. I think this is an 89 from me. What do you think?
I'd give it an 85. It's got so many good, strong points. It's a bit enigmatic. There's some mystery there, some almost contradictory things going on, but It's
Certainly a whiskey that asks,
Moorish.
nay, demands a second glass to get to grips
Yeah,
with.
it's a
But-
real curiosity, but a well-rounded and quite masterfully balanced curiosity.
Rightio. Well, excellent stuff there from Adelphi. We will watch them with great interest to see what they come out with next. Their batch releases, as they're called. Oh, and I didn't mention, this is batch 2. I missed out on batch 1. I'm not sure it came to New Zealand, where we are. So, if anyone knows what that one was like, then certainly give it a bit of a description. In the comments, I'd be very interested to know if this one is at all different from
I'd be
the...
especially curious to know
from
what
the
the
first
ages
batch.
are of those various whiskies in here. Like, what is the average age? What actually
Well,
makes
it's got
it
an 8 on the bottle, but of course
right.
that's just the youngest.
Oh,
that is specifically the Glenrothes, because someone told me, but who knows, really. Oh, and while I've got you, you will notice that my beard has sadly had an accident, so that's going to be a bit of an occupational hazard for me over the next 16 weeks or so, because I have a bit of a stint of military training coming up. So, we'll try to do a bit of a swag of content to keep you going while I'm away, that we can sort of ferret up onto the internet in intervals, but there will be a period there where Dave will just have to hold down the fort, and there's nothing wrong with his beard, so he should be just fine and ready to go, and he'll keep you stocked up. But I'll be back in no time, really.
You may notice some of what the TV industry call continuity errors, where we appear to age or de-age or grow or lose beards from one episode to the next, because episodes may not occur in chronological
It's
order.
what they call the magic of cinematography. It's all a bit Twilight Zone, really. But anyway, we'll leave you to ponder that one and be right back with another whiskey. Slàinte. Stay tuned.